Hello, my name is Marco Granados and welcome to Fundamentals of Flow in Flute Playing. The flow approach to flute playing has to do with consistent movement of the air through the flute and the techniques that have to be put into place in order to maintain set consistency through register changes, dynamic changes, resonance, articulation, and phrasing. Why consistency of the movement of the air, you may ask? Because it is that consistency in the movement of the air that is going to help us keep the correct amount of air in play in order to properly maintain resonance. So amount of air is highly important because of resonance. As long as we have resonance, we feel like we can do things. We feel like we can shape phrases, color sounds, and communicate with feeling. Without resonance, we have tension. And in tension, it is very hard to do anything. It is the consistency of the movement of the air as it travels through the flute and as it travels through the different registers of the flute that I call flow. Flow is the way by which we can measure and assess balance, strength, power, subtlety, and nuance. And it is the feeling of flow in the body when we're able to use the air consistently that gives us that really great feeling of playing with beauty and with ease. So today I'm going to show you a few techniques which have to do with flow, with resonance, and with consistency in the movement of the air as we engage in our daily warm-ups. The first few techniques that I'm going to show you are flow, as in maintaining and monitoring the amount of air that is traveling through a phrase, posture and alignment, aiming as it relates to pitch placement as well as resonance, and then support, structural support. Because since we're going to be moving more air consistently, we need to be able to have the structure by which we support that without tension. Also, I should mention that these techniques are not wholly independent of one another, but that they're interconnected. And when scaffolded together, they tend to produce refined and more complex results, which yield resonance, proper intonation, beautiful phrasing, and a beautiful sound. So while in the beginning it may feel like one is playing almost like a beginner, by the end, when you start to put things together, it starts to feel much more cohesive. You will start to see a much more complex result of integrating the four that I mentioned. So I'm going to show you a very simple warm-up that combines all of these elements together to begin to get an idea of what a flow way of playing feels like. So we begin by doing 5-note patterns, slow 5-note patterns, diatonic up and down, beginning with a nice warm sound. And the first element that we're going to incorporate in this warm-up is the element of flow. So we're going to play the 5 notes, just primarily concentrating on the idea of flow in the movement of the air and the aperture. In other words, following the aperture so that it doesn't close as we do the 5-note pattern, like this. Doesn't sound polished yet because I'm primarily focusing on this idea of flow and this idea of following the aperture. Now, the next element that we incorporate into the warm-up is the element of posture and alignment. Normally, we place our feet every which way when we play, And oftentimes we're not completely aware of the alignment of the spine and the integrity of the thoracic area in terms of maintaining proper airflow. But something that my wife Anna figured out, which is really brilliant, is if we adopt a stance similar to the dancer's stance. So in other words, putting our feet in a V, not too open V, but like in a normal V, definitely helps us connect with the spine and be able to achieve alignment of the posture, therefore helping the whole thoracic region become more open and with air being more available. So I'm going to do the same 5-note pattern, this time incorporating both flow and alignment. Flow, posture, and alignment. So notice that it starts to sound a little bit more coherent and a little bit more connected, because the alignment definitely helps with the continuity of the air. The next portion that we're going to incorporate into the warm-up is the idea of support. So when we properly align, notice that the lower abs naturally tend to come in a little bit. So as we play the 5-note pattern, let's make sure that we also follow inward a little bit, very lightly and subtly, follow inward with the lower abs so that we support the organs that are underneath the diaphragm in order to be able to keep the movement consistent, and also in order to be able to support the back, continuing to support the alignment of the back. So we're incorporating flow, posture, alignment, and support now. Okay? Now, after having done this, incorporating flow, posture, alignment, and support, it continues to sound better, more connected, and a little bit more coherent. The final element that we're going to add in this setup for this warm-up is the element of aiming. So aiming is what's going to help us to fine-tune the placement of pitch in the movement of the 5 notes without diminishing the amount of air that is flowing. So aiming is essential. It's an essential component in order to be able to tune properly the patterns that we practice and we warm up with. So now we're incorporating flow, posture, alignment, support, and aiming. Okay? when I play the warm up, the fifth note comes into focus, and the idea of tuning both the arrival of the fifth note, but also the in-between notes becomes much easier, because in place is this idea of flow, posture, alignment, proper support, and then when you aim, you're able to keep the resonance of the sound and the integrity thereof. So this is the first warm-up. It gets more fun and exciting as we go along, and I'll share more in the next video, continuing with a little bit more advanced warm-ups. So I hope you enjoy this. I look forward to meeting with you soon, and I look forward also to your questions. Thank you so much.